Joining us right now, and I don't know if T-Mac's in or not. He's been, well, we'll see here. Republican Congressman of Michigan, Thad McCotter. T-Mac, what's up?
Hey, Dennis, how you doing?
You've been getting some nice ink lately, but I didn't know you had those musical chops. I know you dabbled, but it sounds like you got flat-out chops, man.
Well, you always need a plan B.
Yeah, sure. If you either run for president or get back into the garage band.
Yeah, we never made any money at it, but it was always a lot of fun.
Must have been a blast, my friend. Now, are you running, or are you in, or what are you doing?
Yeah, I'm running, Dennis. McCotter2012.com. Obviously, we had a little bit of a job to do before we could get on the campaign trail, but I'll be in Iowa, New Hampshire.
Yeah, well, that's the best thing. You should pitch competency and keep your nose to the grindstone and watch this panel here in the latter part of the year, because my feeling is the Dems are just going to rope-a-dope and kick it into the trigger mechanism where 50% of it comes off the top of defense, right? That's their plan.
Yeah, and that's why I had grave concerns about the plan that was going forward. But in the end, I had a chance to bring my concerns to Speaker Boehner, who shared them, he addressed them. And we do not want sequestration to take place. We're clearly not going to raise taxes as Republicans and hurt this already stagnant economy. And in the end, we wanted to prevent the default of the United States. Now, I think I was one of the only ones, if not the only one, to support it, and certainly the only one to vote for it. But in the final analysis, Dennis, what you have to remember is that House Republicans were the only ones putting forward plans, and we were going up against a Senate and a president that were both irresponsible and clearly are the advocates of bigger and bigger government.
Well, T-Mac, let me ask you this. You're in an odd place here. You're a brilliant man, and I know your leanings are towards the conservative side. You're a pragmatist. You make a lot of sense. You also happen to represent people who did the bailout of the auto companies. I think many of them paid the money back at this point. Did it work? Did it help? I mean, give me an insight. Can government infusion of cash short term help?
Well, we've seen, especially with the manufacturing industry, I've always viewed it as both a prosperity issue and a security issue. I call me old-fashioned, Dennis, but I think having the communist Chinese being the world's leading economy with the largest manufacturing base is a problem for the free people of the United States.
No, I'm not. I hope I didn't come off as castigative. I'm just inquiring.
It's a legitimate question. And remember, the money that was diverted was from the Wall Street bailout. So you also have the situation in the country where the people who live in 90-foot lots are paying their hard-earned tax dollars to bail out the people who crash the economy that live in 90-foot yachts. And so if you allow that type of social inequity to occur, you're going to have a gravely dysfunctional country, because America is not simply an economy. It's not simply a bureaucracy. It's a country. It's composed of people. And so when you look at it over the period of time, we're selling cars. We're concerned that that's going to continue to go down with the rest of the economy as we continue to see the stagnation unfold. But we've also had periods where they were hiring people, bringing them back. And in Detroit, we are we live to prove the doubters wrong. And it's a badge of honor to try to pay that back as quickly as possible to the taxpayers, just like was done with Chrysler in the 1970s. What
do you make of Davy Bing over there? How's he doing?
He has a very difficult job. He's a very good man.
Yeah, I know he's a good man.
Detroit has grave challenges, Dennis, and we know that. We understand that the key to Michigan is restructuring government for the 21st century. Governor Snyder is leading the way on that so that we can attract the entrepreneurs and so that we can keep the entrepreneurs that are here to grow it. If we don't, we have to diversify our economy. We understand we want to preserve manufacturing and promote it. We also have to add to it.
Well, certainly the state is thirsty for it, so I hope you guys get some. I hope you get an infusion of people coming in, but I'm telling you what, as long as this guy's the president with all the stipulation and all the OSHA stuff and all the EPA stuff, for God's sakes, I don't even know if you can do business in this country anymore. When you went and shared your concerns about this panel, this Budget Control Act 2011, and the panel meeting, the super committee, and that always scares the hell out of me when I hear the super, how were you received by Boehner? Does he share your fears?
Yeah, he was very aware of it. It was something that was necessary to get it done. And the people that we're going to put on it, while they may be wearing capes and cowls, will still be conservatives and will still be advancing the agenda of making government smaller and restructuring it for the 21st century. So that, to me, was a key as to who he's going to put on it. He'll be announcing that soon. He was also, John Boehner's always supported the American military. Turns out that under sequestration, it affects more than just the military in terms of the cuts, and we don't want to get there in the first place. There's additional safeguards to prevent that. And in the final analysis, it was, under the circumstances, again, dealing with the advocates, the lobbyists for big government named the Democratic Party, that you had to be able to get something constructive done, move the ball down the field, and realize that while it's an imperfect step, it's an imperative step. to putting fiscal sanity back in a place that for too long has taken too much of your money, spent too much of your money, and owes other people too much.
We're talking to Thad McCotter. He is a Republican congressman from Michigan. T-Mac, I have to tell you, I'm enamored of the Tea Party. I don't quite know where you stand. I know where McCain stands, castigating them, or why am I using castigating every three words, but making fun of them with the Hobbit thing. But listen, I don't think any of this gets done, and I'm not saying at best it's a Pyrrhic victory, but at least it's some sort of turn in the consciousness down there. I don't think any of this happens without the Tea Party. What are your thoughts on them?
That's right, and you saw from President Biden's intemperate remarks recently, where the narrative of the left is to paint the Tea Party as a fringe movement divided from the Republican Party. Obviously, they're two separate entities, but they have shared principles, and when they work together, you see the ball move down the field towards a better day for America. Now, what I said during the debate, as it got heated, was you had a situation where you had McCain calling the Tea Party hobbits, and you had people in the Tea Party calling people like Alan West rhinos. Now, that's exactly what the left wants, because as you know, Dennis, when your opponent is united and you and your allies are divided, you are defeated. So what we had to do, and I said it on the floor to get their attention, and it seemed to work, because I certainly got people's attention, not necessarily in a friendly manner. I pointed out that the Tea Party has to grow up and the Republican Party has to wake up. The Tea Party has to understand that not every vote is the end of the world or disqualifies conservatives from laying claim to that mantle. And the Republican Party has to realize that the Tea Party has legitimate concerns and can't be managed away or marginalized, and that there's a mutual dependency there to effectuate positive change for the country.
Wow.
Because I think that's absolutely true.
Well, I agree with the latter part of your statement. You know, I think the world of you. I don't agree that they're childlike. I think in this case, a child shall lead them then, because I really think they've saved us. And I do think a lot of it, there does come a point in history where, people, listen, I've heard the line parroted for years that each vote is not the end of the world. We are reaching the point where some of these votes can be the end of this country as we know it. So I'm thankful to them that they had the cojones to put themselves in the crosshairs and be deemed to be racist and terrorist. And by the way, I would remind every listener that the Obama administration deems everybody on the planet to be terrorists, save radical Islamic fundamentalists. That's the one time that they choose to pull up on that. Accusing somebody of that. That's the only time they won't use that phrase. But anybody else who disagrees with them, they'll drop the terrorist thing. Biden is a dunce, an empty head, and he's sent out by Obama to do his dirty work, i.e. when he's got a fractious room where the Indians are about to go off the reservation, they send Biden because Obama doesn't want to have to step in and actually sully himself with the stench of human contact. We're talking to T-Mac, Thad McCotter. He's running for the president. Once he gets a little monitoring on this super committee and makes sure this thing's going to flow, we'll see him out on the trail. And I'm telling you, T-Mac, you're going to be a beast in these debates because you're so smart, baby. What's the look? You going out tieless, or you wearing a clip-on, or what's the look? Help me. Let me do the Naomi Wolf thing with your look.
Well, it won't be a bow tie, but on the original point, Dennis, that you talked about again, some votes may be very important, but some votes aren't. And so when you start to have a movement, be it the Republican Party or be it the Tea Party, that then considers every single vote to be either to move the ball forward, let alone not a lawmaking vote, to disqualify people like Alan West or others, what you're going to do is you're going to marginalize yourself, and the good that you try to seek will be lost. We've seen this throughout the history of popular movements in the United States. So you have to mature as a political entity so that you can understand the politics as the art of the possible. Now, that does not mean, obviously, that one would disagree with any of the good that they've done, but in terms of protecting themselves from the mainstream media and others, or from the establishment wing of the Republican Party that wants to see them go away, is that if you allow yourselves to be marginalized, if you allow yourselves to be viewed and to be painted in an unfair light, what's going to happen is that movement's going to be hurt, and I think that movement is necessary.
Yeah, I think they're calling the mainstream media out into the front street. I just do. I think they've had it with idiots like Joe Klein and stuff like that. They're not going to take it. They're not going to take it anymore. They want to get it on. Yeah, come on out here and call me that. It's that sort of thing. Listen, once the villagers light their torches, it's tough to tell them to half light them. And these people are lit. And if this is what has to scare people to get us to this point, I'm glad they did it. I really am a fan. I know people are going to say, oh, God, they want to bring it all down. Yeah, what is it? What is left to bring down anymore? 14.5 trillion. We had to go through this histrionics just to get a hold on this thing. We haven't even cut anything back. We're going to have like 2.5 in, 2.5 out over the next decade. Yeah, it's a good thing. It gets us some breathing room. We got to flip this in 012 and start cutting everything in this country. It's like the bonsai, and I hope the Republicans are Miyagi next time through, because we don't need a little pruning shears. we need a chainsaw to get rid of some of this crap. Are you the guy, T-Mac? Will you answer that call?
You got to restructure it, Dennis. You have to restructure for the 21st century. It's not simply about making cuts. It's not simply about austerity. What we need is to restructure government to allow the American people to grow this economy for the short term and the long term. And Obama, as you rightly pointed out, is the party of government. Look, the most powerful special interest in the world is big government, and the Democrats are their lobbyists. And they have to have big government to continue as a party. They're based on the premise of redistributing wealth, on the premise of having government bureaucrats control your money and your decision-making. It's going to be a very difficult struggle. Again, I think that the conservative movement has to be united so that, as you rightly point out, 2012 gets us the ability to actually restructure this government.
All right, T-Mac, where are you at on tax rates? What would you like to do? Just let me ask the first question at some of these things coming up. Would you fair tax, flat tax? Nobody likes it as it is. Where would you stand on that?
No, I think that I've always told both sides of that debate that what you have to do is convince the American people of the danger that we're on a precipice here with the progressive income tax. When you continue to see us approaching the day where 50% of Americans don't pay taxes, once you cross that threshold, Dennis,
yeah, it's crazy.
You're going to see is more people avail themselves of the benefits of taxation than bear the burdens of it, and that's a recipe for disaster. But what you have to do, I think you immediately have to start off with tax relief for Americans. You have to start off with corporate tax rates being lower towards a flatter tax, closing up the loopholes, but it has to remain revenue neutral. I think that those are some of the things. I think cap gains have to be reduced so that people can start investing again, moving the economy. I think you have to, but before you do anything, you have to restructure the big Wall Street banks that failed, force them to recapitalize so that you can get credit moving. Because if you don't get credit moving down to the entrepreneurs, there won't be any income to have tax relief from.
Yeah, well, I'm not into propping up dolts and greedy dolts, and they are greedy dolts, but I'm also not into busting the chops of a guy who's trying to run a 12-person shop, and that makes him $275K a year, and all of a sudden he's the Antichrist. You know what I mean? It's like somewhere in between lies some sort of sage wisdom. I think T-Mac will be the first one to sniff it at. He's running for the prez. Thad McCotter, 2012. Give him a tumble. I'm telling you, the guy is a wit, a funny cat, and he's as brainy as any of them. I mean, you can hear it just talking to him. He makes me... Here, T-Mac, let me hold this fork up. Bend this with your head.
Yuri Geller, baby.
Bend this with your head. That's how powerful that mind is. All right, T-Mac, we'll talk at you down the road, brother.
Thanks, Dennis. Bye.
Thaddeus McCotter. Like I said, folks, if that man ever becomes the president, I'll be able to say when I got my radio show, he sent me a gift congratulating me, and it was a VHS copy of The Blue Lagoon with Brooke Shields and Chris Atkins. How stupid funny is that?